This video is brought to you by Arma, who provides top quality supplements to athletes of all kinds. Riders like Nick Way, Chad Reed, Jeremy McGrath use them for pre, during, and post-activity applications. Be sure to head to armasport.com and use the code RACERX. That's RACERX, no spaces, for 20% off your first order. Howdy everybody, I'm Kris Keefer. Welcome to Glen Helen Raceway. And you know what? We're going to be ripping this track up on the 2020 .5 Husqvarna FC 450 Rockstar Edition. So stay tuned for all the ins and outs of this new machine and to see how it works at the infamous Glen Helen Raceway. Alright guys, so we have taken this sucker out on its maiden voyage. The 2020, I call it 2020 .5 FC 450 Rockstar Edition. So cosmetically, if you're a Rockstar guy coming from last year's bike, doesn't look much different. Obviously it has the different triple clamp, the graphics, the black frame, the fork guards and are yellow, and of course the disc cover. For me, right when I get on this thing, oh, and of course the FMF slip-on pipe. The difference for me right away, and I have a lot of time on the FC 450, is just how good the mapping is on this bike. The ECU mapping on last year's Rockstar Edition wasn't so good. There was a lot to be desired. It was kind of lethargic feeling. It felt connected, but I just needed more excitement. That's kind of what we all want out of dirt bikes, right? We want excitement and we want connectivity. Right away, this is the first thing. When me and Simon went out there and did photos earlier in the morning, right away I'm like, wow, a lot more snappier. So for me, map 1 and map 2, big changes this year. I didn't really screw with the mapping that much at first, and then I went to map 2, and then right away I noticed there is a lot more bottom to mid-range on map 2. Versus map 1, I am more of a map 1 type of guy. It has enough snap for me here at Glen Helen because obviously it gets really choppy and nasty out of corners, but it has a nice pull and over rev. I am not a huge traction control guy. I know some of you guys are out there that like that stuff, but for me, I don't use it as much. Husqvarna wanted me to use it more and talk to you about it more. I just simply didn't have enough time today to really speak through it. Like, I need more time to talk to you guys about traction control. So right away, if you guys get this bike, you're gonna notice way more snap. A lot more bottom end, more mid-range, and to me, what I like to call recovery time. When you're out of a corner in second gear and you're kind of like dogging it, fan the clutch a little bit, it gets back up into that RPMs really quick. Another thing Husky really worked on this year is obviously the suspension. Last year's suspension, I wasn't happy with it, quite frankly. It was just really soft, it moved a lot. I kind of understand where they were going. They wanted a different feel from KTM. They want to separate themselves, right? But it just didn't work. Well, this year, they added a lot of new parts into this AER 48 fork. So right away, when I got this paper right here, I was reading it, and for me, there's a new oil bypass that's 10 millimeters longer. So for me, when we talk about that crust, the top of the stroke, there is a crust that I like to say on an air fork that just is a little harsh feeling. It's like you cut an apple pie at home. You have to break through that crust. I like the crust on an apple pie, but not on an air fork. So now with the bypass and the mid valve changes that they made, it breaks through a little bit easier and moves more. I proposed this question to the WP guys. I go, hey, Are you guys trying to make this air fork more of a spring fork feel? He didn't tell me yes, and he didn't tell me no. So that means they're trying to do that. They understand that the air fork feeling is not the desired feeling for most riders. Now I have some more front end traction, I have lean angle traction. There is more of that on this bike this year. Again, the shock, I ran my sag about 105, good rear wheel traction. As you guys know, Glen Helen's really choppy out of corners, so that has a good feel. I do notice, and I will play with it more today, that when I load the front end, my rear end comes up a little bit. So I'm gonna mess with a little bit of high speed compression today and also low speed compression to see if I can get that rear end to calm down. If you guys also, you guys know about me, like if you guys have any questions, Kris at keeferinctesting.com, I'm happy to answer them. And another thing real quick, Glen Helen's really fast. So if you guys are riding faster type of tracks, drop your fork leg down to the first line. Stock is at line 2. I prefer line 1 because it just kind of calms this chassis down a little bit. So for me, I like that. Another thing they did this year as well that wasn't involved last year was there is an insert in this FMF pipe. Leave it in. Yes, there's a screen on there. It's okay. Even if you're a moto guy, it's fine to have a screen in your muffler. You're not gonna lose any points for your moto dudes, you're good. What that does, it creates back pressure and gives you some more touch on your throttle. I need that in this bike. And it also helps when you come out of a corner, it helps straighten this bike up and get you moving and what I call forward bite. This little piece that you stick in right here does all that for this machine. So I need that on this bike at this track. Last but certainly not least for me, obviously the parts that usually come standard on this Husqvarna. Hydraulic clutch is amazing. I really grown to love a hydraulic clutch, really nice. Again, Brembo brakes. I've been on a Honda and a Yamaha the past few weeks. Holy crap, the Brembo brakes are amazing. The next thing I noticed too is how light this bike is. If I'm coming off of a Japanese bike, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it feels light, it's exciting. And then you get on one of these, now with the mapping change that Husqvarna did and how, on paper, how much less weight there is simply with this bike, you can put it wherever you want. It feels like a 250F. Super fun to ride. There's a reason why I bought one of these suckers last year. It's because I had a hell of a lot of fun. It's a great bike. It looks good. Husqvarna, leave your frames black. Leave them black. It looks way better. Or better yet, make them white. That's great too. But that bluish color, that's gotta go. That's no good. To me, this is a way better looking bike than the standard version. So with a little extra money that you're gonna pay for this, for me, I think it's worth it. Also, what I do like about Husqvarna's versus KTM's is all of their bikes come with Pro Taper handlebars. There's nothing different about this bar versus a standard edition, but I do want to mention that for whatever reason, I'm a big feeling guy, I feel like this bar feels a little bit taller than last year's. Maybe that has something to do with the fork setting, riding up higher in the stroke, but I like the dampening character that a Pro Taper Evo bar has. I like this bend. It's a flat, low bend. It really complements my corners. I like diving into corners, and having the right rider triangle is very important when you want to go fast on a dirt bike. That's just simply put. If you want to go into a corner fast and get out fast, you got to feel at home on your rider triangle. One thing I do want to mention, be careful of this seat. It'll eat your ass up. It is, I ride a lot. But man, this is no joke. Couple hours in, woo! Chafing going on, people. Get the bag balm out if you're gonna ride with this ribbed seat. So like I said with the ECU setting, this overall engine character is smooth, it feels connected. For a 450, it's very controllable. I think this is one of the reasons why I like this engine character so much, because it's easy to ride. I like to ride 20, 30-minute motos. This engine fits that type of guy. As well as vet guys. To me, like, if you're scared of a 450 and you're like, man, I don't know if I can handle a 450, this thing is pretty mellow considering a 450 cc's, right? Like, I feel like it's broad, it's deceiving. So, and what I mean by deceiving is if you need to get out of a corner and jump a jump, you may feel like, don't sound like I'm going that fast, but it clears the jump with ease. There's no problem. So again, very easy to ride, controlled. Not a lot of vibration from this engine. I've had vibration problems in the past with steel frames and with this engine. I don't feel that much vibration on this bike, so I do like that portion of it. To wrap this whole thing up here, I'm gonna continue to put some time on this bike. You can come back to RacerX Films at a later time. We're gonna give you guys a little bit more of a settings, things that I've grown to like, maybe dislike, some tips and tricks. So you can always go to racerxonline.com for more information, or you can simply head over to keeferinctesting.com and I can answer your questions.